And I'm back. Feels good. Here come those reviews. The boys of Muse were clearly not cut out for the rolling plains of rural England. They definitely had a more extravagant, a more dazzling destiny in front of them, and they got there eventually, starting in clubs and moving to bigger clubs, and then to really big clubs, and then stadiums. Absolution and Black Holes and Revelations are some of the best rock albums, hands down, of the 2000s, with their really recognizable blend of space rock and progressive rock and stadium pop. Muse has always really worn their heart on their sleeves with just so much visceral energy and this larger-than-life rock orchestra sound. Every single performance was just absolutely over-the-top bombastic, but at the same time extremely precise. Hyper melodic and catchy, so very accessible in that way, but it always felt like the band was just pulling you out over the edge of a cliff. But the reckless abandon, the fearless chaos of songs like Citizen Erased or City of Delusion, it all kind of petered out, in my opinion, after 2009's The Resistance. And they almost risked parodying themselves with the throwaway melodramatic pop of Follow Me or the predictable tired chord progressions of Survival. Those classic arpeggiated synths of 2003 were still there, but the songwriting and the authentic chaotic passion just wasn't. These ham-fisted anti-government and love, not war platitudes were just all over the place in their music, but Revolution, it tends not to be cliche. And then 2015's Drones was a culmination of all the obnoxious elements of Muse. So this new album, Simulation Theory, rolls in about a decade after I was last excited about a Muse album, and also a decade after I stopped buying CDs. I actually didn't even know this was coming out until like last Wednesday, and I kind of think that actually worked to the album's advantage, at least initially, because my first listen to these first couple tracks was blood pumping. It was like an old friend from another life dropped by and knocked on the door. The opener Algorithm hit so hard with this throbbing electropop and these absolutely gorgeous melodic climaxes. Matt Bellamy just sounds incredible, like seriously. And the lyrics feel even more relevant and even more pointed and specific than Muse albums typically do. To me, it's kind of pointing to this danger of social media platforms controlling what you see instead of just letting freedom reign. And all that Muse love just continued for me on The Dark Side and Pressure. Which pretty much sound exactly like this futuristic Fast and the Furious album cover looks, designed by the Stranger Things guy, by the way. They're both songs with this 80s dance swagger that feel lighthearted without being too ridiculous or too corny. I love that really sinister falsetto thing he does on The Dark Side, or the subtly slick bass lines on the chorus of Pressure. While I think that Drones or The Resistance really suffered from almost an over-reliance on a concept, it's clear that Muse is walking away from that on Simulation Theory, from that apocalyptic, almost verge of disaster tone. It seems like they want to emerge freely into something less biting and less critical. Still as over-the-top and bombastic, but more triumphant. And that comes through on the lyrics of Something Human or The Dark Side, about breaking free or coming out of the shade. But after Pressure, the album just derails into a black hole of uncomfortable attempts of Justin Timberlake to make the next Tron soundtrack. Since the song may be Supermassive Black Hole, I feel like one of Muse's main songwriting tropes has been this dirty, sexy pop sound, kind of reminiscent of Britney Spears' Toxic, but better. And the song Propaganda is trying to recapture that for the umpteenth time in the band's career. But this time just leaves me feeling slimy with the whispering and the squeaky clean production, with some Odelay era Beck thrown in there with that down-home acoustic guitar riffing. The song Break It To Me kind of continues with those cringy sound effects, but the chorus kind of saves it for me. Poptimism, poptimism, poptimism. It's kind of a big thing this decade, and I feel like at its root, it's kind of a postmodern idea. Just follow me here. It's this relativistic idea that pop music, no matter how simplistic, no matter how materialistic or paper thin or shallow it is, it's somehow of no less value than more, I guess, intellectual music or sophisticated music. But to me, it's like saying McDonald's is just as valuable as your first plate at Thanksgiving. It's just not true, and some music is like a chicken nugget for your soul. The most egregious examples of this are two of the singles that actually came out before the album, Thought Contagion and Dig Down, with these horribly robotic beats and canned hooks. They feel like this album's attempt at madness, but they come off more as cheap versions of Follow Me from The Second Law or Guiding Light from The Resistance. The songs Something Human and Get Up and Fight are actually more catchy to me and a little bit more memorable, but they feel more like guilty pleasures than they do genuinely interesting. I guess you could say that Simulation Theory is like some of Muse's best albums, at least in theory, at least on paper. It's definitely anthemic at times and, maximal and dense and maverick and theatrical. But my experience is that it's also cheap and safe. Look, it's impossible to not hold bands to the standard of their past work. It's inevitable, and I don't feel like it's really unfair in any way because it's their own standard. Once you get that glimpse of Tiger Woods circa 2001, driving 350 yards and sticking it right on the green and putting the lights out, 2018 Tiger just winning by a stroke in maybe one tournament, it's not the same. And the missing piece for Muse is that beautiful, reckless chaos that used to characterize their music. So, I can enjoy this one casually. It's pretty catchy. I'm not going to go back to it all that often. It's a 5.5 or a 6 out of 10, kind of around that area for me. But please let me know what you think of it. Let me know what you think is Muse's strongest album. I'm going to go with Absolution on this one. And as always, thank you so much for watching.